Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this research mentorship session. We are very honored to have our guest presenter today. And in case you're all members or in case you're guests, please introduce yourselves in the chat. We're not that many today, so we will have a highly interactive session. Feel free to comment on any aspect of our 1 hour today. So my name is Dr. Joyce Wangare. I am the lead mentor in Journal Club AIDA Africa. And I would like to welcome you today to Journal Club, to AIDA Africa, and to this research mentorship session. So please type in the chat, introduce yourself by name, institution, if any, or institutions you represent. What are your research interests or your field of research, as well as your expectations? What you would like to learn from today's topic titled Research for Posterity. So as we do that, I'm still admitting more people. I'm going to be taking your chats. I want to see as you introduce yourself. So I see Dominic Musa, welcome. Technical University of Kenya, taking masters in music composition. Wow, interesting. You're at TUK. Okay, I see Isaac Warambo. He says, I am a member of Journal Club. Tell us a little bit more. This is interesting. Thank you, Isaac. Hasina says, good afternoon. Welcome, Hasina Kasim, all the way from South Africa. And I can see more people waiting to be admitted. So I'll just proceed to do that as we continue. So I'd like to introduce our presenter today. And Dr. Stephen Asatsa is a practicing counseling psychologist and a lecturer of psychology at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa, that's CUEA in short. He holds a PhD in counseling psychology from the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. He is a member of the Kenya Counseling and Psychological Association, KCPA. He's also a member of International Society for the Study of Behavioral Development, ISLD, and a member of Society for Research in Child Development, SBCD. He is a member of international bodies such as the Stillbirth Association, where he collaborates with other researchers globally in perinatal mental health research. So that is research throughout, the perinatal period of mothers. His research interests include trauma and grief, perinatal mental health, and indigenous knowledge. So I'm really honored to have you here amidst your busy schedule, Dr. Asatsa, and I'd like to hand over the session to you. And maybe after your presentation, we'll also take a lot of sharing questions. And meanwhile, feel free, everybody, to just type in case you have any question or comment about the presentation. So welcome, Dr. Ari.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joyce. And I appreciate for inviting me to share with the academic community that is here. And my approach today, looking at research for posterity, I want to approach this presentation from the perspective of a lecturer and also a student. I am sharing what I'm presenting today, also informed from my experience as a postgraduate student, and now my experience as a lecturer and a research supervisor. And the topic of today being research for posterity. When looking at this title, we are looking at research that goes beyond just the graduation time. We are looking at mentorship that will possibly produce people who will be immersed in research for the rest of their life. And one of the areas that I wanted us to start with is a reflection on the publication index in different journals. I was looking at the amount of content or the amount of work that is coming from African universities on the global publication index. And I just wanted us as participants to reflect on this. Like, what do we think is the contribution of African universities on the global publication index? Going back to our areas of specialization, I am specialized in counseling psychology. I know we have people from different disciplines. When you reflect on your field that you are specializing in, and there are so many theories, key theories that drive that discipline, what percentage of these theories is Afrocentric? And when you look at that, you find there is a lot of skewness, like most of the content is coming from the West. Most of the content is coming from other continents. The contribution that African universities are giving on the published content globally is too minimal. One of the studies I was reviewing some days ago was on the percentage. Actually, there is a study that put like Africa contributes like 1% of the world published work, especially in peer-reviewed and high impact journals. And so as we ask ourselves this question, then I was like, what is the problem here? On my side, I'm looking at, could we be doing the right thing in research training in our universities? And looking at if this is the way the knowledge is skewed, if this is the way publication is skewed, is there hope in the future? Can we change this pattern? And I was looking at, so how are we training our postgraduate students right now, especially in the area of research? Because for the continent to rise, to reach or to start contributing a considerable amount of information on the publication index, then we need to invest in the generation that is coming up, the postgraduate students, because these are the ones that are going to research and publish and change the skewness that we are seeing. So as we think about that, the other thing that came to my mind is the global university rankings. And again, I was asking, if you look at different ranking sections online, how do African universities fare on the global university ranking? I was checking the list and you'd find it's sometimes difficult even to find us in the first 50, first 100. So what is the problem? And when you look at the ranking indicators, one of the key indicators is actually research and visibility of the universities. And so if we are being ranked low, then it means possibly we are not doing very well in research. And these are the questions that now, as I reflected on, then I start to ask, how are we doing our research? How are we equipping our postgraduate students? As academicians, how are we involved in generation of new knowledge so that we don't over-rely on what other continents are doing? And then the first thing I looked at was, so what is the motivation for research? When we say the universities are supposed to train and to research, so what motivates people to research? And I want us to reflect on this red phrase that is here. It's a common phrase on our research documents, output, the thesis and the dissertations. You'll see we capture the title and then somewhere we say a dissertation submitted in partial fulfillment of the requirement of the award of the Doctor of Philosophy in counseling psychology. You can put your discipline there. So what is this telling us? Like, the destination for research in our universities has been graduation. So the students we produce, once their ultimate goal is, I want to finish this thesis so that I graduate. So then you see, so after graduation, what next? So most of the students, we are saying, they terminate their research journey at graduation, but yet we are still saying there is a problem of, there are so many, like we have so many universities on the continent, but then we are not being ranked among the best in the world because of the research output and other factors they consider. We are saying we are contributing maybe 1% of the global publication index. Because of what? Our long-term goal for research is actually not long-term. When a student joins university, so we are supposed to work with them until they graduate. And personally, like, then I've been having a problem with that. Like, would this then produce the future revolution that we need in research? And that's why I was asking myself question of like, so how do we make research beyond graduation? How can we make research to be for posterity? That when students are graduating, they are normally told they have been given power to read now. So the question is, do they continue reading? Do they continue researching, or research is forgotten at the level of graduation? And that's why, and I've had many scholars say the governments are not doing anything on their research because the researchers are rotting in the libraries. So that's a debate that is there. Like, we've even done research and it's not being implemented. It's actually in the library shelves waiting for people to read. It doesn't translate to policy. Could it be that we are actually training people and also helping in terminating research at the level of graduation? When someone graduates, they forget research. And what I wanted us to reflect on as I look at this issue of what is the motivation, what is the destination for research? I was just looking at questions that I can pose, and maybe we will be able to respond to them together later. How can we repackage research? Because if research is actually ending at graduation, how can we repackage it so that our universities will now shift from research destination from graduation, so that our destination for research is not graduation, but it goes beyond graduation. And looking at even publication, like in Kenyan context, the Commission for University Education requires that a doctoral student before graduating publishes 2 articles from their PhD dissertation. A master's, the minimum is 1. The question I was also reflecting on is, how many students normally continue producing publication from their dissertations beyond the minimum mandatory one? So there's what the commission says, but when you go through the dissertations of some of the students, you'll find there are so many publishable articles. There are so many papers that can be produced from there. But because, again, we are just geared on the minimum, we say, after graduation, I published 2 articles, so it ended there. And you can see a lot of knowledge that now is carried in that dissertation that has not been translated into journal articles that can go out as research output. So how many universities, for instance, in Africa, also go beyond just the dissertations and prepare policy briefs, prepare media briefs to actually bring that research to the community, to bring that research to the awareness of policymakers? These are questions that we reflect on, and we see we seem to be stagnated at graduation. Once the student graduated, research ended, we are now picking another student to start mentoring, so that again, when we reach graduation, we abandon and assume the research has ended. As I looked at that aspect, then I'm also asking the question of, what about the academic staff? In Kenya, if I speak for Kenya, I've not looked at what other universities are doing across Africa. When academic staff are hired, in the job description, one of them is usually to conduct research and publish. There is hiring contracts to conduct research and publish. But when you look at the status of research in our universities, you'll find actually there is more of teaching than researching. This aspect of conducting research by academic staff is really done by very few of them. And so the question is, again, why are our universities teaching universities? And that's why you are seeing then we are producing raw materials in Africa that have to go to Europe for processing because maybe we are not researching on what to do. Simple things we cannot be able to produce. There's very minor things. Even our tea in Kenya has to go somewhere to be processed for it to come back. So is it the issue of, I'm just asking myself, is it the issue of research? Possibly that's what I'm saying. So because there is this requirement for publication, conducting research and publication, now you see, when you look at most academicians or academic staff, their publication work is actually what they do with students. And so there are very few who are initiating their own independent research. And that again comes up with that question of how can we, is this research for posterity? Because then we'll just be doing publication with student, that one article, and we wait for another student to graduate. Is there a way that we can motivate, we can change the motivation that our staff can now start publishing and actually conducting research of their own? And I'm not saying people are not doing, but if you look at the ratio of those who are doing their own independent research and those who are not, the ratio is really wanting. And as I look at the aspect of staff, I bring in another issue on research mentorship. And this is, on the level of mentorship, this is a great opportunity for preparing the next generation. Because if I've gone through research training and now I'm a lecturer, then it's my duty to bring up the next generation. But as a student, as I started, I said I'll speak as a student and a member of staff. As a student, sometimes it was a very bad experience to see that sometimes as a doctoral student or a master's student, your work is actually being delayed because your supervisors are disagreeing. So it's a war. The student has become a battleground, that this supervisor is saying this, the other one is saying this. They are not ceding ground to come and agree, discuss with the student, but each one is telling the student, do this, do this. So you find students are not able to progress. And that's just to introduce research to students like a very hostile experience, when we're actually supposed to mentor them to enjoy the research process, to show them that research is a good thing. But on that level, the students are already starting to be traumatized by even the research experience. Another level comes when now the work is being examined. Examiners also come in and they are supposed to critique the work. But sometimes I've been in different panels where you find if a student is not researching on a familiar topic for the examiners, they can actually throw the work out. Not that it's bad. This work is not, like, it's not familiar to them. And sometimes I would ask myself as an examiner, if I don't understand, why can't I learn from the student? Why can't I listen? Sometimes students then are reduced now to just researching on the common things, the effect of something. But you find a student going beyond and saying, yes, I want to move out. I think sometime I was looking at, in my dissertation, I was working on a research title on death. I was examining death attitudes and death preparedness. And this topic was approved. I presented in international forums, got funding. Sometime when I presented at the university, it is shut down. Because when you hear even the arguments of the examiners, you can easily tell they don't understand. They don't have enough knowledge on this topic that I'm presenting. So, and then that makes me to ask a question. So would we produce students then who are critical, students who would jump into areas that have not been researched? Or then now we'll be forcing students to research in areas that the faculty is conversant with. And as we reflect on this is, how can we make the experience of supervision and research to be a learning experience rather than a battleground? Because what we are seeing here, in most cases, it's a battleground. People are like fighting over that instead of wanting to work together and work through the idea that the student is producing here. How can, and I was also looking at, does the experience, like me as a supervisor, does my experience that I went through with my supervisors, does it play out in the way I supervise my students? Possibly if my supervisors harassed me when I was doing my PhD, is it possible that I'm also coming up and I will harass the students? If possibly my PhD took 20 years to finish, and I'm supervising a student, would it then imply I might also actually not be safe with a student who is, I see they are progressing fast and maybe they'll finish their PhD in 5 years? Would this then start making me to drag them because maybe to go through the same experience that I went through? And these are some of the issues that sometimes as a student and sometimes as I talk to students who are working on their research, there are heavy questions that they are asking. Why is my supervisor frustrating me? And so this, after asking all these questions, then I was trying to see how do we rethink research in our universities? How can we rethink, what debates do we need to have so that we make research to be for posterity, not to be just an event in a student's life, not to be an event that is contributing just a grade, then it ends there. And I've been looking at applied research versus research for graduation. When we are looking at applied research, like we want to solve a problem, we are doing research to address a problem that is happening in society. So which side should we put weight on? Should it be research to solve a problem or research to graduate? Because at the end, it seems we are skewed towards research to graduate. Should we focus, like our postgraduate student, on generation of knowledge or generation of research output for graduation? And still reflecting on this, I also find another skew, like when students start nowadays, every university's undergraduate students are actually also starting research and writing projects. What is the quality of supervision or mentorship for undergraduate projects? Sometimes there is not much like time given to that. It's taken like, and you see that the time a student is being introduced to research. How many universities, for instance, teach the undergraduate even through the rigorous data analysis procedures? Possibly very few. And so we expect we've just taught them how to do research. They go do research, go outside there, get someone published for them. So we inculcate that value in them. When they reach the postgraduate level, they still want to do and give someone else to analyze. So this is how we are introducing research maybe to the students. So as we look at this, does neglecting research at this stage kill research passion? Possibly, because if we supervise wrongly at the undergraduate level, when this student goes for masters, they're already going with a notion that research is not friendly. They always come when you ask, what is your perception about research? They think that is going to be a unit of death. It's a unit that it's difficult. They don't take it like it's an enjoyable thing. So should we still be promoting, encouraging students research so that we solve problems, research so that we generate knowledge? Or are we just saying research so that we graduate? And looking at also opportunities for collaboration. Is it possible? What are the collaborative strategies in our universities? And I would look at just starting at local faculty where we teach and where students study. Could people share experiences saying like, yes, in my university, as lecturers, we work with students, or students sharing and saying, we are able to collaborate with our lecturers. Even before that project that I'm writing, we are able to collaborate with our lecturers up to the point of publishing and even presenting in conferences. How many students are finishing their studies when they have even had one conference presentation? So, and from there, if we are missing collaboration at the local level, then we now come to staff where we are saying, why are staff now relying on student work? They may be not doing their independent, very few are doing independent studies. And many issues will come up like there is no funding, which is true. But are we aware of even the external collaboration activities? And possibly we are not aware of the external because we have not even utilized the ones that are available in our local contexts, that within the institution we can still collaborate, different departments carry out a research that is not necessarily a research thesis or dissertation, that a lecturer, we can actually do a mini study and work with these results and publish with my students, and then proceed with them to go to conferences. And that would really enhance the quality of mentorship, because then mentorship is just about reading your thesis, sending you an email, discussing on that. No further issues like going to the conferences. The other aspect that we are looking at is what is the what are the opportunities? Because this can really grow opportunities in membership in international professional bodies. Many universities, they also, when they are hiring, they say academic staff you should be a member of a relevant body. How many people are relevant members, members in relevant bodies? And sometimes I've been looking at our own bodies. The component of research is very, very weak in our own professional bodies. I am a member of several bodies of psychology. And in these bodies, there is no component of research. Actually, they tell you what promotes you to the next level is you produce your therapy hours, you take, so you are being promoted on practice alone. But I look at bodies like APA, there is even a division for research. That means the way someone is being, I'm trained as a psychologist, I could rise in the academic, in the psychology ranks as a practitioner. But there are people who are saying, me, I don't want to be a practitioner, but can I rise in terms of research? So you'll find even in our own local professional bodies, there is no promotion of research. It's about practice alone. And that's the question. I'm like, could we also look at international bodies and see what they do? From my introduction, when Dr. Joyce was introducing, I am a member of some international bodies that have really boosted my research skills. And what surprised me, some of those bodies, their annual fee is cheaper than my own local ones. I pay like $5 a year, and then I'm accessing their journals. They have small funding opportunities when they do their biannual meetings. They invite early career scholars and PhD students to write and apply for travel grants. I have gotten travel grants as a PhD student, and not like I did anything, just being a member, following up what this organization is doing, then being proactive, checking what is new on the website. This can be a very good opportunity that we don't even wait to graduate to join these professional bodies that I'm talking about. So they are quite good international bodies that you can join, and you find within even a span of 2 years, you have had chances to present in international conferences. You have had chances to apply for funding, and you get some small funds of up to like $3,000. That's a good amount locally, even to be able to help someone to complete a dissertation. So I would really be like, on this level, as we rethink research, we cannot just remain on the dissertation. We can look at how can we expose students and staff externally. How can we be members? And what I've seen in some of these bodies that I'm talking about, the membership is skewed. There are so many people from the West. And even when you get to the membership of that body, you see they are discussing it as a problem. Like, we need people from Africa, but the people from Africa, possibly they are not applying to be members of those organizations. So there are opportunities in international bodies that we can actually be able to ride on. So as we work on the local ones, the international ones could be an opportunity that can be able to boost research for our students. And the other issue is looking at research as a career. Because many times, like if I'm training as a psychologist, people expect when I finish, then I will be working in the hospital. I will go to schools and help people there who have psychological issues. And as I said before, I can study psychology, and then I change and say, I want to be a psychologist who is a researcher. So my work will be researching and generating knowledge. And that can be a career, so that I don't have to be just a psychologist who is seeing clients. I could be a psychologist who is a researcher. So I finish, I write grants, I get funded, and that becomes even my earning, or my source of livelihood. So I don't know if we have actually maybe presented this to students, because they don't see this research can also be the end of the end in itself, that this can be the thing I leave my postgraduate studies with, that I will live and eat in my life from research. I don't think most universities, we are presenting research that way. We are we are just giving it as an event in the student's life. So we just do research, then you go back to your line of maybe practice. And that's what I would be like, could we start rectifying this from the university levels, from professional body levels, that even professional bodies need to inculcate the research departments and allow people to rise in research, to rise in that profession, in the line of research. And I think if we can do this, then we can start answering the questions that I started with. We can start saying, can university ranking in Africa change? We can actually start answering these questions that can we work on the publication index in our universities? We cannot change the index, we cannot change the ranking if we have put research like a corner. Like I used to see when we were in kindergarten school, there used to be a corner called the art corner. So you only you'd go to that corner when it is art and craft time. When you are through, then you go back to your life. Can we inculcate research in our training so that it's not just a corner that students should rush to when they are graduating, then after graduating, they walk out? If possibly we could work on those areas. From my own reflection, then I'm thinking we can be able to change research. We can make research to be for posterity and not for graduation. So at this point, I think I've posted a lot of points to reflect on. So I want to pause there and invite Dr. Joyce to take over. Welcome, Dr. Joyce. Dr. Joyce, I can see your mic is on, but we could be also posting questions as we wait for her. So as we possibly wait for her, just a few points that I've reflected on before there is how can we repackage research? Because the way research is packaged, possibly it's not really coming out well. How can we repackage research so that it can be research for posterity and not just research for graduation? So I think we can share experiences as we wait for the moderator. Yes, Dr. Joyce?
Sorry, today my internet is not really cooperating, but let's now open up the plenary for an comment there, Dominic.
Okay.
Monetary rewards for publishing in Kenya. Nigeria, I know nothing is given to research scholars. So maybe you can take that one. And I'll switch off my video to see if my internet will be better.
I can also switch off mine.
Thank you. That way we can share the bandwidth.
Yeah. Yes, so thank you, Dominic. And for Hasina, are there monetary rewards for publishing in Kenya? I would say depending on which publication, because there are people who publish books, then they sell. That's I'm picking this question to mean like, after I publish, can I get monetary reward from that publication? But usually when people publish in journals, then it is for their academic progression, for informing policy in their areas of research. But the aspect that I know that brings really monetary rewards in research is when we get to that level and start writing grants. Because when you write a grant, even the funding body allows you to, in the budget, to put a salary for yourself. So, and I know people who are actually earning from research. They write one grant, when they finish, they write another one, they earn for the whole period that they are doing research. That's how some people are making a monetary rewards actually from research. So I don't know if I've responded to the question.
I don't know, can you hear me?
Yes.
Actually, I'm just asking this because in South Africa, it's a lot to do with money. For every article that's published, a lot of money is given to the first author, second author, and third author. They all gain some money. And this money goes into research funds. And so it's like a big business. Everybody just wants to publish. And at times you wonder that publications are so high. I mean, obviously in good research journals too, because you move up, you become a recognized a researcher. But sometimes my feeling is I don't see this research going into policies. Recently, there was a killing. A young scholar was killed about a year ago or so, and in the area where my home is, and the father is a great researcher in, well-known researcher in violence in schools. But I mean, my feeling was, does this ever get to the department levels, national levels, where there can be some policy change or psychologists can help with discipline in schools or something? I see nothing of that type in South Africa. So sometimes it feels like it's a big money-making thing. So, and in my field, I'm doing inclusive education. When I'm looking for articles, Kenya, I think I just found one or so. But there are a lot of the journal articles. There are people from Sharma and these people from Australian University, and Professor Sharma and his people work with people in Africa, in Bangladesh, Nepal, I think in Northern Africa, Eastern Northern Africa, Western African countries, and even as far as Saudi Arabia. So I know there is big money involved for every publication in other places, which is sad, but that's the way the ball game is. I mean, every publication you have, if you're the first author you get at my university, I think, I'm not sure, but if you're a third author, you get about 5,000 or something. But first author, about 30,000 or so in your research funds. And that's the funding they can use when they travel abroad for whatever. But I think in Africa, university, this money comes from higher education. So our universities get ranking according to what, how much publications are done. So that I just want you to think about that, sir. So it's something you should keep in mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Joyce?
Yeah, I know. I really like the contribution from Hasina Kasim of South Africa, because there's also the bigger picture of generally funding for higher education research in our setting. And we have a very NGO culture whereby, you know, we Africans are storytellers, but you'll see even out there in the field, if you want fundable research, you kind of have to custom make a case study in the way that the donor would like for it to look like for you to get the money. And so there's no real research for research's sake. So it will be either driven by, you know, the need to get that donor money, or to quickly graduate in order to enter the development sector to get that donor money. So it's all quite short-lived, and we've not seen longitudinal clinical trials at a big scale, you know, in our settings that can actually drive a lot of policy. I know we are all coming from different fields. I might be speaking on a very, very general scale, But I think generally, other governments, for example, in the global north, will actually pour money directly into research for development. But here we seem not to have that. We seem to rely on that donor funding from the global north and not have our own, we want to know this so that we can change this situation for ourselves. I think that's a gap in the general research atmosphere, which makes our mentorship also quite complex, because you might start on a topic and then quickly, if something has shifted, maybe, the donors have arrived or the activists have now spoken or civil society is now awake, something has shifted on the ground, the entire research topic, will shift around. But the idea of short-term versus long-term motivation is a big question we have to ask ourselves. Are we in this just for the graduation ceremony? Or is there a real change we want to see in our communities? And right after the 2 or 1 journal article you write and you graduate, is that research then going to sit on the shelf and just populate a library, or will it actually create impact? So quite a compelling argument there. So thank you for that, Hasina. I totally agree with that. I don't know if we have any other. Okay, Hasina is saying, I'm not referring to grants. Yes, I got it. Hasina was talking about money given to universities, yes. And nowadays, even universities have to also account for research money coming in, and they will even charge an administrative fee, maybe 10% or 15%. And I get it, Hasina. And rankings are then based on that. And I think on rankings, there's also another aspect of hierarchies that we can look at. When Dr. you were presenting, I really got this idea that we are in quite a rigid hierarchy inside of the university system, and that may be to the disadvantage of the students. So if in the experience of the student, if they find that their supervisors are in a supremacy war, who has the most power, who has the cloud, who gets to say about my research journey. Therefore, the student is really at a crossroads as to how to proceed. So I'm also getting that we can delve into that. And is that very advantageous for us? It definitely is not. It's one of those things you find that students really struggling with. So who else would like to weigh in on this topic of research for posterity? Do we have a shift now? Do you think over the last few years we have a shift from research for graduation? Have we moved totally to research for posterity, do you think?
There's a question from Dominic.
Okay.
Saying, you talked about the issue of supervision. What would you say about the laziness of students in terms of doing research, as well as bad culture of students hiring people to write the papers for them? Yeah, this is a common problem. And sometimes I normally attribute it to, starting with the last part of hiring people to do research, because we have shown them that research is just for graduation. And because so a student looks and sees 1 year ahead or 6 months, I need to be graduating. So they start now hiring people to come in, analyze their data, write their papers for them. So I was like, if we inculcated the values of research is just not for graduation, they would own research. They would want to do research even to fulfill maybe curiosity, to understand issues. Why is this thing happening? So like right now in Kenya, we are experiencing schools closing down, burning of schools. Possibly a student would even come and say, I want to do an in-depth study to understand what is happening. Not so that I graduate, of course I'll graduate after that, but so that we see, can we avoid this cycle of burning schools? Because this has been happening for a long time, every year, or sometimes after every 2 years. But I still also admit some students are lazy, and even you find it's the supervisor pushing them to do the study. But sometimes I think what I didn't bring out also was the role of peer supervision, the role of peer-to-peer supervision in research. Sometimes I tell my students, do not only rely on the supervisor. Before you possibly send this work to your supervisor, have your classmates write the work. Before you do a defense, maybe the main defense. Have you maybe had time to defend before your friends and they look at it? And I used to find, yeah, peer-to-peer supervision was a very great way of even encouraging like ownership of the work and even motivation to carry forward, because students would also challenge one another to move. But sometimes when we get to research journey, then the student thinks it's their own journey. They don't want even their friend to look at the work. They are not sharing. But I think if we bring in that, it can also give in impetus for students to move even as a team, as they critique one another, they look at their work, and that would play a very big role that will then prevent students actually from giving people work to be written for. But that's a rampant problem, Dominic. I think it's a problem as scholars we really need to look at and see how do we help. I think recently you saw, we were even cited like Kenyans are writing for students in the UK. So I saw people making jokes like, so who is actually studying? Kenyans are the ones writing papers and being paid for the paper. So who is the person now who is studying? I think it's a culture that we really need to come up as academics and researchers to look into and see how can it be reshaped so that we can do research for the purpose of research. Back to the moderator.
Yeah, thank you so much. Academic writing is something we have said over and over again at Journal Club. We will not do that. It's a really different, and as you've put it rightly, it's very different to give a fish or to teach somebody how to fish. And in this space here, we are actually teaching someone how to fish rather than giving them fish. So I thank you for bringing that up, academic writing, and there's a big industry. A lot of university students have profited and bought land and cars and many things with that, but it's highly unethical because therefore the effort of the student is through the payment to another person, and this other person is not there as a guide or a mentor, is there to write for them. And so a lot of the cybers outside of most campuses now in Kenya are, full of these people who are actually doing this work. And that is a very unethical practice. So thank you for mentioning that. I don't know what we have to say about that. Let's make it interactive. I see more comments. Hasina says, unfortunately, these days in South Africa, anything can be bought. Not only the analysis section, everything to do with values and ethics, probably tied in with nepotism. Yeah, there's also a lot of talk about nepotism in Kenyan universities as well, Hasina, especially now that we got a high number of universities over the last few years, exponential growth with many, many different universities, and the schools of thought around, should we hire from the local places or should this be at a national level, hiring people from all over? And so nepotism has really come up inside of university politics as one of the negative drivers of who gets to graduate and who gets what research money. And so it's quite similar, just like in South Africa. So Hasina says, I admire Journal Club and the Catholic University mentorship programs. Thank you. Yeah, I wish that we could replicate in every university a mentorship program that's really strong, like what Dr. Asatsa leads at his department in Catholic University. I think that would be something that each one of us can take away. You're an ambassador of Journal Club, and you know that if we create spaces like this, students will be unstuck. We are here to unstuck students as well as researchers. So if you're stuck, we are here for you. So I also acknowledge the work Dr. Asatsa is doing at his department. So who else would like to comment or ask a question? Hasina says, tribalism I experienced, I struggled with my conscience, but fortunately got my way. Yeah, it's unfortunate that university politics have to rear their ugly head inside of, the journey of postgraduates, some postgraduate students. So in your experience, members, is research for graduation or is research for posterity? On which side do you lie? I'm seeing a lot of you here who haven't spoken. I see Kolawole Ajibola saying, thank you for the great work and good work. Please keep it up. Thank you. We'd like to hear more about your experience as well. According to you, is research long-term or short-term? We know that we have largely two groups of people in our journal club space. Some get in and just want help, and when they graduate, they go off. But others are here to stay. So for you, what are you taking away from this presentation on research for posterity? Asina says, Africa has brilliant scholars. I'm exposed to the rest of Africa. Yeah, that's the beauty of our own. If we have any other questions, comments, we still have about 9 minutes to the top of the hour, so feel free.
Dr. Wangari, can I come in again?
Yes, yes, welcome.
I just want to give up my studies because I'm finding it very hard, especially working away from office these days, the environment. I know it's very late for me in life, but my wish is to mentor students when I finish off. I'm starting with basic things. I had the bad experience last year with the supervisor who was very rude, but this year I think he went on sick leave. I didn't ever send comments, and it was very difficult, but fortunately I decided to continue with the distance university. Then fortunately this year's August, I received new supervisors. They don't know my field, but they are very, the comments and that are very good, but I find that I am stuck. I've reached a stage where I feel so overwhelmed with all the articles I read that I can't move forward. So I wish I can just get over this, and then I know I'm old, we all know that, but hopefully I can mentor students in Africa because my field is in cognitive development, and I found Dr. Kingsley, who is also in my field, and he's helped me a lot. I think I introduced him to the group, but he's been very busy. He's a postdoc at University of Free State and someone that works in that field, but the person couldn't supervise me because he was too busy. So I have supervisors that are not in my field, but they these days I realized the difference between how I felt when I had that supervisor at UNISA, who didn't want to comment on anything and turned out to be very rude and said I undermine him and that, and there was no such thing. And now I have very genuine supervisors, but as I've been reading my work, I just have become, I don't know, I can't move. I don't know what's happening to me.
Yeah,
I forgot how to write.
Hasina, you know, I caught something there. You said when you graduate, you hope you will mentor others, and just to encourage you, you are already mentoring, because our space is about peer-to-peer mentorship. And thank you for the courage to be so vulnerable to share with us. I would first of all say thank you for informing us about, you know, your struggles. They are very common when you reach as if you are at a wall and you don't know how to proceed. You feel stuck. You've had problems with your supervision. You've, you know, navigated through somehow, and you're here. You also mentioned you completed your master's in 1987. So that's a good, that is 4 years ago. So consider that you have a whole world of life experience, not just, you know, academia. I know sometimes it feels really burdensome to come back to the space and kind of, you wonder whether you know how to do this thing of being a student after 34 years. After you did, you know, your master's, but now you're back after all this time, and you know, you've brought in very invaluable experience. So I don't have any magic wand or any any prophecy to say that you will get over this, but all I know is that you will get through it. I don't know how, but somehow right now you might be facing a writer's block. but there are some things you can actually do in order to start to, return back and actually continue writing, where you feel stuck and where you feel there are actually some things that are still possible in that space to move you forward, even if you feel stuck. And so feel free to keep sharing and keep reaching out. There's nothing wrong with, speaking about this with members of Journal Club. And at this time, I'd also like to invite, the audience to also weigh in on, do you have any tips that Hasina could use? She feels stuck right now, and she's had a few problems in her journey, but now she's, she's ready to roar, she's ready to move, and she would like, some guidance on that. So members who would like to weigh in on, you had
my proposal was accepted last year, November. By February, I was informed. And then I didn't have any supervision for the first few months this year. And in July or August, when I started working, my supervisor said he's going on sick leave. I assume that's why he had a problem. But now the new supervisors have want me to polish up that proposal too. So it's the second year I'm stuck in the proposal. And if I can just get over this big mountain, I know I'll be okay. But I felt a bit demoralized, but I agree with them. I suspected last year's wasn't very good. But it went through, and then he didn't give me any comments. But the qualities at some of the universities have dropped in the doctoral. But I don't want to be one of those that just gets a doctorate and knows nothing. I want to be
and yes, you are in the doctorate to learn and know more, so I totally get that. Maybe at this point I can also invite our presenter, Dr. Asatsa, to weigh in on what Hasina has requested, what she's asking. Karibu, Daktari.
Yeah, thank you. And I really empathize with her. And that has been a common thing in different universities across the continent. So it could not maybe just be in her university. It could be a problem in the entire continent. But sometimes on my side, I've ever got myself in that crossfire of supervisors. And sometimes you wonder, what do you do? But like then in my university, we have a complaint channel, like after appointment of supervisors, and maybe you find you are not moving, they are dragging you behind, or for some time there are differences that have been developed that now would compromise the objectivity of the work. Sometimes we allow
supervisors now very good. It's just I'm the one that's stuck.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So possibly looking at it from the supervisor side, then the student side, like in our place, we allow students to actually write and change a supervisor. But sometimes also as a student, you can have your own things that would block you from moving forward. And sometimes I also normally tell students, take time. Don't push yourself so hard until it now affects your mental well-being at the expense of. So at some point, I have in my journey reached a point and said, I think I want to suspend writing maybe for 2 months so that I cool down, I slow down the pressure. Then again, when I'm okay, and I would take self-care measures, even take a walk and go on a retreat. Then sometimes when I come, I would now start opening books, because sometimes again, just pushing and saying I must do this, I must finish in this time, sometimes it can run down on your mental well-being, and which will really not be good, because we still want, as we finish the research, we also have you as a person, so that you are not producing the research, then now you are going to hospital. That would really be bad.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's a distance university, so you don't have contact with face-to-face ever with the supervisors. So UNISA is has students from Ethiopia, Kenya, everywhere. It's I think one of the biggest distance universities in the world. So,
Right.
so I just have to, I think I've just reached I don't know, I can't write a simple sentence at the moment. I get confused when I read articles. I can't even write my notes. But I have taken a break, so I think I'll just have to get back into it.
Yeah, and I think not making yourself wrong as you take the break, sometimes the guilt, in itself could have you feel stifled, or I'm not moving, I'm supposed to be moving, but you're on a break. So you've designated the break, and that's by design, and that's what you're doing to take care of yourself. And so I would say, you'll get back on track and you'll finish. And I like that your focus is on quality now. A lot of students will rush to the finish line, compromising quality, but when you really do the work, when you get back, you'll be able to do deep work that's quality, and you'll not only graduate, but actually make a real impact. And out of all your learnings, that's also a lot of food for social science researchers, just studying that journey and how you can inspire so many people. You're already inspiring so many people, so there's no one day you'll become a mentor. In our space, everybody here is a mentor, and we do peer-to-peer mentorship. Actually, that's the model that makes Journal Club a game changer. So thank you so much for your wonderful contributions. I see a lot of our members. I don't think we have any guests coming in. If you're a guest, please let me know, then I can ask you to join our space. If you haven't joined, we are mostly on WhatsApp platforms. We also have a Telegram group. And as I said earlier, Journal Club exists for peer-to-peer mentorship. I'd like to thank the founder of AIDA Africa and Journal Club, Aurelia Monene, our programs coordinator, Raymond, as well as our knowledge management lead, who is David. And at this time, I'd like to give it back to the presenter for any final comments before we close. Welcome, Dr. Asatsa.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joyce. And I want to appreciate for giving me the opportunity and this platform to share with my fellow scholars. And I don't have a lot to share, but just to thank my audience and for being engaging and commenting. And it is not a destination, it's a conversation that we can continue even in our different capacities as staff and students as we continue to shape research so that we can make research great in Africa. Thank you so much. Back to you, Joyce.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a wonderful afternoon. So feel free to unmute and say goodbye. Oh, I see a newcomer. I'd like to welcome them before we unmute. So Sister Grace Sember Shiedu, tell me if I butchered your name. Thank you for being here. I'm seeing some comments. Dominic Musal saying, thanks, Dr. Joyce and AIDA Africa in general. You are doing great. I've benefited from you, especially your courses. Regards to Aurelia Monene, the morning digest was great. Gbenga Elufisan says, although I came in late because of my time zone, but it's great to be here. I'm glad issues about posterity is being discussed this way. I'm glad I belong to the club. Benson Barasa says, great work. Thank you so much, everyone. And Grace, I'd like to welcome you to join our space. Let me see if I can get the link so that you can actually join Journal Club. And you're really welcome to join our space, which is a space for learning and growing and laughing together inside of research. So for all research or research mentorship matters, you're really, really welcome, Grace, to join. And so please click on the link I have posted in the chat. If you'd like to join Journal Club, you can register and it will bring you right into our WhatsApp group. So thank you, everyone, and goodbye. You can unmute and say goodbye if you like.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Okay.
Goodbye to you too.
Bye. It was wonderful.
Everybody.
Thank you so